the relevant, and the intelligent. You want to have the best stuff in your paper as you go through. Gather information from secondary sources. I mentioned just a little bit ago that a primary source is something that you discover and you find. You want to go sometimes and go to information that's already out there. We call that secondary research because it may be pertinent to your project and related to it, but it's not exact research you contributed just for this one project. So we call that secondary source. Print resources are really good. Books, okay, a lot of times you can grab them online, electronic books, or even books you have on a shelf someplace, periodicals, different types of aspects as you go through. Research databases, there's a lot out there available just like that at your fingertips. Sometimes you have to pay for it as you go through, but there's an awful lot of information that's available for you to sit down and include in your paper. Just make certain it's credible as you go through. LexisNexis, the Business Source Premier as you go through. Those are just a few that are out there. I've used LexisNexis quite a bit for my research. I have a couple papers published on it as well on top of that. Include quotation marks if you're doing searching for exact words. You want to have exactly these 3 words, put quotes on it, and Google will actually get that for you. Job interview tips. It'll include references with those exact words. Add define when searching for a definition if you're trying to find something that way. Define networking as you go through. Add related to find similar sites. Sometimes those tips over here really come in handy. I forget about them sometimes, so either put them in your head or put them in your notes as you go through and make certain that you're help expand your searching or get specific in your process you go through. The show results for several choices, but or in caps between words, that helps a lot. So all these are really good tips to sit down and have it. Include an asterisk to find an unknown word if you know what it means. A blank saved is a blank earned. I think that whole quote makes sense. Get it? A penny saved is a penny earned sense. All right, anyway. Okay, so anyhow, use basic Boolean search strategies as you go through. And, or, and not, with the commas in there properly as you go through. Make certain you have multiple sources to confirm data. A lot of times, unfortunately, there's so much junk that people put out there and pretend it's real facts, and it simply isn't. If you have some research as you go through, and gee, somebody's funding it from a company that's going to benefit by that attitude or that thought, okay, be careful about it because it may not be true. So make certain you avoid slanted researches. If it's grant funded, make certain you know who paid for that research in the process as you go through. Evaluate, you want to make certain what is the date of the web article. I become uncomfortable unless it is a classic item. Okay, the French and Moravian study on the 5 bases of power was an old study, 1957, except it still has a massive amount of credibility in every field of science that really talks about the political power or sociological power as you go through. But if somebody's even 15 or 20 years old, sometimes you toss those things up because they're not a landmark study. They're just a casual study done by some small cooperative and everything else in the process. So look on the date of the web article. Is sometimes you get all excited, you find the exact same thing, and here it's 10 years old. A lot of times on a website, you want to go back and make certain you know when it was last updated and is it out of date. And then who publishes it? Sometimes people make statements and pretend to be an authority and nobody's ever heard of them in that field. And then is the contact information available? Sometimes somebody wants to go back and check with them. You want to make certain that person is really there and they still exist, or they weren't a fabrication that somebody added out there and put it on the web pretending it was real. Okay, so the content is the purpose set to entertain, okay, to inform, persuade, or sell. Okay, sometimes I wouldn't include those in your paper because they're not serious research things, and you don't want to lose your credibility that somebody laughs you off and they blow off $1 million proposal or a paper you spend a lot of time with at school. Who is the audience that that information is directed to? Is it directed to somebody like you or somebody out over here in a different area? Which is a problem with secondary research as you go through. And does the content compare to content elsewhere? In other words, do the facts seem reliable as you go through? If you're finding errors in spelling, grammar, usage, and you got a problem, check for bias as you go through as well. Some of the primary research, these are the things that really do the very best as you go in the process. You want to make certain that you have surveys, interviews, observation, experimentation, but make certain in the process you cite the relevant and intelligent, make certain you have authority, credibility, content-related topic, currency, and uniform citation, the format, and have it all, in my case, I want them all on the very back paper as you go through. Take care.